Hello everyone. Today we're going to discuss a historic test match. This match had everything. This had the heroics, this had the heartbreaks, this had the highs, this had the lows. In fact, this match had everything except for the fact that one team could not win at the expense of the other. This match ended in a tie. After all four innings were concluded, the scores were level. Only two matches in the 143-year history of Test cricket have ended in ties. And we're going to discuss the second match, India versus Australia, Madras, 1986. We have with us
Wow.
Mahesh Kuti. Mahesh, are you excited?
Oh, super excited. Couldn't have asked for a better match, I'm sure.
So Mahesh, going into the match, India was in form. They had won the Test series in England 2-0. So they were the fancy team. Australia, on the other hand, were not having a good run. It was almost 3 years since they had a Test series victory. They had lost the Ashes in between. They had lost to New Zealand at home when Richard Hadley had that great series.
Correct.
They lost a few stalwarts to retirement. Dennis Lillee, Greg Chappell, Rod Marsh.
Even Kim Hughes also, right?
Kim Hughes, they lost Kim Hughes and a few other players to the South African Rebel Tours.
Rebel.
So they were rebuilding the team around Alan Border. In fact, Alan Border was the only player in this 11 who had some form of test match experience in India before this match. And nearly half the team would not have played 10 test matches. So
Correct.
Going in, India were the favourites, especially in home conditions.
Without a doubt. True.
This match, Mahesh, was the Western media, the non-Indian cricket media used to call it the forgotten tie. So we need to set that record right.
Right. We need to tell our own people that this was a fantastic match that took place in Chennai.
True.
Or whether in those days it was known as Madras, whatever.
So let's go to day one. Let's take our viewers through the 5 days proceedings. Australia won the toss and elected to bat. How was day one? What are the highlights?
See, day one, Australia won the toss and rightly they elected to bat first because we were playing in the month of September and we know that Madras can be really hot. It is really difficult to play in those conditions. It's hot, it's humid. It can actually drain every ounce of energy from your body. So the right decision by Alan Border to bat first. And they got up to a reasonably good start. They reached 48 before I think Jeff Marsh got out to Shivalal Yadav. And then David Boone and Dean Jones worked up a partnership together. They had a very good partnership.
Boone was more
aggressive. Boone was more aggressive. Boone scored a century and he was looking really good till the second new ball was taken towards the fag end of the day when Chetan Sharma got one to swing a little away from him.
Immediately after the second new ball was taken, he got the edge.
He got the edge and Kapil Dev picked up catch. Yes. So they sent a night watchman by the name of Ray Bright.
Correct.
And Ray Bright was not feeling well that day.
He was a doubtful starter for the test here.
He was a doubtful starter. But Alan Border forced him to go out to bat as a night watchman. But he did pretty good because while they lasted the first day, he batted through the first day. I mean, those last few overs he batted without a problem.
And they reached 211 for 2.
Australia ended the day 211 for 2 with Jones looking good after having completed his half century.
And the next day, Jones and Bright continued. And Ray Bright got out first.
Ray Bright got out with his personal score at 30, but Jones batted and batted and batted. And
in the company of
Alan Border. Alan Border also scored a century, but people don't talk about Boone's century. People don't talk about Border's century. Everybody talks about Dean Jones' century because he scored a double century. He scored 210, and it was an innings where he had to fight against the weather. The least of the problem for Dean Jones was the Indian bowlers because he was able to tackle all the Indian bowlers effortlessly. He used his feet against the spinners. He was very good against the pace bowlers. But towards the end of day 2, when he was around 170, 180, he started throwing up. He was dehydrated. He just did not want. I mean, it looked at any point of time he could get out. Every over, a couple of times, he used to walk up to square leg and throw up. That was his physical condition. But Border egged him on to play, told him that he should bat. And finally, he scored his double century. That inning, if you see, it's a testimony of the guy's technique, talent, temperament, but above all, his energy. in that physical condition, he was able to concentrate so hard and score a double century.
In fact, it was his first Test century. It was just his third Test match, and he was in competition with Mike Veleta for the number 3 slot. And because Jones was good with using his feet to the spinners, he was preferred.
That was the reason why he was. And the day prior to the Test match, Border called him and told him that you're going to bat at number 3. Are you happy about it? And he said that he felt 10 foot tall. So that was what it was, right? So the second day they crossed 500 runs. And
there was this. Dean Jones says that once he crossed 120 or so, he still doesn't remember what happened after that. And somewhere when he was in his 170s or so, he wanted to retire hurt. And Alan Border applied Border applied some reverse psychology. He said that you're a weak Victorian, and Border, a Queenslander himself, said, I want a tough Australian, a Queenslander like Greg Ritchie to come and face the Indians. So that kind of worked, and Jones carried on.
It worked well. And immediately after he got out, he was rushed to the hospital.
Yeah.
He was taken to the hospital, given drips and all that.
Apollo Hospital,
And Apollo Hospital, and Border said that when he heard about it, he got slightly anxious whether he had pushed the case too far. I mean, he should have allowed him to go. But according to Border, if he had retired hurt at 170, it would have been a good innings. But because he played and he scored 210 runs, he became a legend in Australian cricket. So according to Border, he has a big role to play in Dean Jones's career. But whatever it is, all said and done, they did not declare in the second day also. They played a little while on the third day, the first session, and then they declared.
They lost a wicket, and when the wicket fell, they declared at 574.
They declared at 574. That was a mammoth total. Now look at it. I mean, in these days, if a team wins a toss and starts batting, they would never end day one at 211. They would be very close to 300, 320. So those were the days when Test cricket you got to grind yourself in and make the bowlers actually struggle to get your wicket. Anyway, India started off, and people talk about Sehwag as the explosive opener. India had an explosive opener in the 80s. Krishnamacharya Srikanth,
the hometown hero.
The hometown boy, he though, for him there was no bowler, no weather condition, nothing bothered him, because he would play all his shots, and he started off. And by the time the first wicket fell at around, I think the first wicket fell at 65, Gavaskar had scored only 8 runs.
Yeah, that was a quick half century. That was a very
quick. He played very well. He played extremely well, and he scored a half century. But the rest of though there were a few more half centuries in the Indian batting.
Yeah, Azhar got a half century. I think Ravi Shastri played well. Yeah.
Shastri scored a half century, and India were 230 for 7 at the end of day 2.
Yeah. 270.
Day 3. 270 for 270. Chetan Sharma and Kapil Dev were at the crease. Apparently, Kapil Dev walked into the dressing room.
So many of them got starts, but could not make it big.
And they threw away their wickets.
And they were up against 574. They needed 374 to avoid the follow-on. So even though 3 frontline batsmen got half centuries, they were still
nobody converted.
Under danger of being asked to follow on,
and nobody converted that into a big score. And most of them threw away their wickets by playing all false shots. So at the end of day 3, Kapil Dev gave them a real sounding. He said that this is not the way you've got to play a Test cricket. You're not supposed to hit the ball in the air and all that thing. Come day 4, Kapil Dev's first shot is in the air for a boundary. And for the next few hours, India were treated to some real delightful batting by Kapil Dev. He played all the shots in the book, whether it was pace, spin. See, Kapil Dev, just on the virtue of his batting, can walk into any team. He is so good. As an all-rounder, he was one of the best in the world. But only on his batting, he could really bail out India, and he bailed out India a few times. Even going forward, he hit 4 sixes of Eddie Hemmings to avoid the follow-on. So he's actually stood for India in moments of crisis, and that day was no different. He scored 119 runs, and not only managed to avoid the follow-on, but India went on to score 397 runs. So the lead was 177 runs, which was of course quite big. But he had, by the time consumed a little bit of time on the fourth day. So India didn't have to do a lot of fielding left, and that the Australians would score a huge total and we would have to start defending. So by the end of day 4, Australia reached 170 for 5. So an overall lead of 347 runs. So India had to bat out one day to save the match.
So there was this debate whether Australia wanted to declare the overnight score or not. Alan Border, in fact, wanted to bat on a little more on the 5th day, but coach Bob Simpson prevailed upon him. You got to play positive cricket, and then you got to declare now and give yourself a chance to bowl India out a second time. So all said and done, by the time they declared, and they had a great day of cricket.
Fifth day, wearing track. 347 runs. The odds would be favoring Australia to either win the match or the match would end in a draw. And Indian victory was highly improbable, right? I mean, those days, 347 runs was a lot of runs to be scored on a 5th day wicket. But Gavaskar and Shrikant got off to a great start yet again. I mean, real quick start. And this time, Gavaskar batted. Gavaskar scored 90. I think he played very, very well for that 90. He was very aggressive. Gavaskar at times has been very aggressive. Remember the 1987 one-day century that he scored against New Zealand? I mean, so he was towards his fag end of his career, so he was actually enjoying himself. So he got after the bowling. Mohinder Amarnath came, he joined in, he scored a half century. And then we had Azharuddin, Chandrakant Pandit, Kapil Dev.
At T, India were 193 for 2.
193 for 2, and
the
platform was set.
Platform was set. You needed about 150 odd runs at 5 and with 8 wickets in hand.
Half an hour of play and then 20 mandatory overs. Those days it used to be like that way.
Correct.
So, but I think India lost at some point of time, if they had lost the chances of winning the match, it was when Kapil Dev got out.
Kapil Dev got out cheaply in the second innings. You remember?
He scored only 1 run.
You remember the oval chase of 1979? Gavaskar had set it up, and Kapil Dev that was promoted in the order then.
At number 4, he came to bat at number 4.
He could not fire.
Couldn't score.
So when Kapil Dev went, it was 5 down, and Ravi Shastri was coming in. The match was still on. Though the balance had started shifting a little bit. But it was to shift again. It was to shift again because Chandrakant Pandit and Ravi Shastri batted well again.
Because when Kapil Dev would have got out, I think the Australians would have thought that either they could win the match or the match would end in a draw. Correct. They did not expect the counter-attack from Ravi Shastri. In fact, nobody expected Ravi Shastri to chase that total. And suddenly, India were back in the reckoning. And I think Pandit got out at 35 when he scored 35, but Shastri continued batting with the tail. Everybody came in and contributed. Chetan Sharma came.
Chipped in.
Yeah. So at that point of time, it did look like while India were getting close to the target, they were also losing wickets.
So they were losing wickets, but at one point, which was about 5 overs to go or so, it looked like India had the match in the bag. They had 4 wickets in hand also. So after Kapil got out, when Chandrakant Pandit, Ravi Shastri all got their act together, India were back with a bang in the match. At that point of time, Alan Border would have taken a draw any day. It was India's match to lose then. And then the fortune tilted again, the Australian way. India kept losing wickets again.
Correct. Border was also trying the time-wasting tactics. Yeah. So the umpire actually called him and told him that he needs to hurry up with the game. So there was a little bit of verbal...
Yeah, I remember there was some body language. He was pointing to the pavilion that I'll send you.
To the dressing room, told him, I'll send you off and all that thing. So Ravi Shastri was getting the umpire to come back, and he didn't want to waste time because every minute then would be precious. He wanted, because once a half an hour would get over, then there only 20 overs would be left. And light was also becoming a factor, right? I mean, it was getting dark.
Correct.
So they wanted to finish the game. Finally, it boiled down to the last over.
1 over was 4 runs or?
1 over was 4 runs.
1 over 4 runs, yeah. So Shivlal Yadav got out in the penultimate over.
Penultimate over, yes.
4 runs to win. Shastri took a 2, a single. Single that leveled the score. It leveled the score and made sure India doesn't lose the match. But it exposed Maninder Singh to Greg Matthews. And then Maninder Singh got out.
So Maninder Singh believes that he had nicked the ball.
See, Manindra believes he has nicked. Ravi Shastri is sure that Manindra has nicked, and even Alan Border admits to the fact that possibly he nicked. In fact, Border was fielding close in, and his first reaction was to go for the ball.
He did not appeal.
He was trying to prevent a single or go for a catch.
Go for a catch because he did not appeal. But when he saw others appealing and the umpire's finger going up, that's when he raised his hands. So there is a possibility that he might. I mean, it could have been an error on the part of the umpire. And those days, DRS was not available, right?
So, umpire Vikram Raju was convinced that...
Yes, Vikram Raju believes that even if he had to take a decision today, he would still give the batsman out.
He never officiated a test match again after that.
He robbed India of a victory, that means.
We don't know that. We know what people who stood there told us. So
Because Ravi Shastri was very, very optimistic. He was very sure, very confident that Maninder had edged the ball onto his pads and that he was not out LBW. He, in fact, after the match, walked into the umpire's room and had an argument with Vikram Raju.
Correct.
Which is
in
today's time.
So those are external factors. Whether the umpire gave a decision, it went against you. Should Ravi Shastri have taken that single? That's another question that we need to evaluate. Was he right?
I think he was right because there is no guarantee that Ravi Shastri would not get out in the next ball.
I agree with you.
If Ravi Shastri would have got out, we would have lost the match.
Yeah, the ball was spinning at the top.
Yes. Now a tie is better than a loss, right? And I think Ravi Shastri did the right thing of taking the run and leveling the score.
Because there were 3 balls and anything could have happened. They could have run off a leg by, Maninder could have edged the ball. We had a chance to win.
And apparently it seems Ravi Shastri had told Maninder in the last ball,
go for it.
He should just swing. And because I think most of the fielders would have been in the circle and even a top edge would have got India a victory. But unfortunately that did not happen. And India tied the match with Australia, which is a second tie, right?
Yeah, it's just a second tie. Kapil Dev and Dean Jones shared the Man of the Match award. Dean Jones for obviously that epic innings and Kapil Dev for the counter punching he did in the first innings.
So
Kapil Dev, not as a captain, as a player, other than that innings, did not contribute much. He couldn't get going in the second innings. I think he went wicketless in the match too.
Yes.
One person who was not lucky, he was unlucky in the Man of the Match sweepstakes was
Greg Matthews.
He picked 5 wickets.
He picked up 10 wickets.
Twice. And he did contribute to the
10
bat
wickets.
too. He bowled
unchanged
on the last. So a monumental effort from Greg Matthews too.
Huge effort. No doubt about it.
So the captains had a vital role. Kapil Dev, obviously, when he was given the challenge to go after the target on day 5, Indian team accepted
He accepted it.
Alan Border as a captain gave a sporting declaration.
Correct.
So twice they declared and they were at risk of losing the test. And why that happened?
And that would have been a record for sure.
Because they wanted to win the match and they were ready to risk losing the match to give themselves a better chance of winning. And
that is, I think, the Australian trait.
Alan Border was a tough captain. Ray Bright wanted to take some rest on day 5 in the last session, and Border wanted him to come and bowl. He sent a messenger and asked him to come out and bowl. And Ray Bright took wickets.
Correct.
And the taunt.
In fact, he got Gavaskar out.
Yeah, in fact, he got Gavaskar's wicket, and he got. I think he got Shivlal Yadav also, right?
Yes.
He got a wicket towards the end also. So amazing
match. Because
match.
Gavaskar's wicket at that point of time was very crucial because Gavaskar was playing well. He had already reached 90. If he would have been there for a little more time, probably India would have been able to achieve a victory. But there's no place for ifs and buts.
Some parallels with that monumental chase at the Oval, where Gavaskar kept going, and once he went, it kind of lost momentum. But India
just fizzled out.
India escaped a defeat also in a way.
Yes.
So great match, and what made it really great was the positive intent shown by both teams, making
both the teams.
Cliched as it seems, cricket was the winner.
Correct. Absolutely. No doubt about that. It was a fantastic match. I think the best match in the 1980s.
Yeah, certainly. Great match. Mahesh, we had a great discussion.
Fantastic.
So that's all we have today. We'll be back with more. Thank you.
Till then, cheers.